135's Community Call Daily Talk, and this is the June edition, and Saturday. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very important event which recently occurred, the Orlando shooting rampage. Dan Patrick of Tampa, Florida, e-commerce professor who lives in Tampa, Florida. He has family in the Orlando area. He will be talking to us about this devastating tragedy, which is the greatest mass shooting loss of life in U.S. history. Of course, it was a traumatic event for the victims and for their families, and we are all, from the news, all of us aware of the, shall we say, religious and political leanings of the killer, who after killing 49 people then killed himself after an extended standoff with police there at the Pulse Club in Orlando. And I would like for any of our listeners to feel free to call in with their questions and with their comments. And again, with Daily Talk, Researcher 135 Community Call, which is a Rich Vernadeau production. I want to issue this disclaimer. The statements, beliefs, and opinions of callers and guests do not necessarily reflect those of either the host, Rich Vernadeau, or of Rich Vernadeau Productions. Again, feel free to speak your mind. Feel free to speak your opinion. Please be tasteful and respectful of the victims and the families. This is going to be a very powerful show because we're dealing with a very tragic event. And unfortunately, there have been so many mass shootings in the past many years, it's become far too common of a news event. It's happening in many, many different states. Everything from school shootings to shootings in theaters, all different parts of the country. Of course, the Fort Hood incident comes to mind as well. Good evening. We have Florida Tampa Metro on the line. Hello, Dan Patrick.
Hey, good evening, Rich. How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Fine. I think we are going to talk about some of the more outrageous events taking place in the last few weeks in America. Some of them not too far away from my home. I don't know if there's any other topics that you have in mind. That's certainly on my mind and a lot of other Americans, I'm sure.
Well, it's become a pivotal key issue in the election 2016 as well because, of course, obviously the issues surrounding gun control and gun control legislation obviously come into play, and various factions, various political factions have reacted and are reacting to the Orlando shooting. So being there in Florida, tell me the response, Dan, from your neck of the woods, and I understand you do have family in Orlando.
Yeah, I have family in Orlando. I actually have a sister, two adult nieces, and two grandnieces in the area, as a matter of fact. And actually, one of the nieces is looking for work, and she actually applied for a job for that week. They needed extra hands over there at the Pulse nightclub. I used to live in Orlando. It was my first home when I moved to Florida, and I'm pretty familiar with where it's at. It's downtown and a more seedier area away from Disney. I don't want anybody out there to get the impression that this place is anywhere near Kissimmee, which is where Disney. This is in downtown, old downtown Orlando, which is I guess for lack of a better term, on the wrong side of the tracks type place. So this wasn't really an upscale area where this took place at, but my friend, is just disgraceful. If that's not, it's the deadliest shooting on American soil in history, period. Second worst terrorist act in American soil since 9/11. And Obama refuses to declare it an emergency situation or acknowledge that it was done by radical Islamic factions. I don't know if anybody knows the history of this man, other than that he was a security guard the FBI had him on a watch list. They cut him a gun anyway, legally. He's a legal carry. He was abiding by the Second Amendment rules. But his father was running for president of Afghanistan. He's a very wealthy man, and he is a very pro-Taliban individual who broadcast. And I found the broadcast on YouTube. And eerily enough, although he broadcast out of somewhere out of California and somewhere out of Afghanistan from time to time, he uses a Fort Pierce Florida address for donations from Islamic people around the globe to collect money to continue his broadcast and pro-Taliban propaganda. So to say that these people aren't linked to radical Islamic terrorist behavior is just ludicrous, to say the least.
I saw several news clips of interviews with the dad. I think Charlie Rose at one point from CBS talked to him, and several other people did. So the dad got a considerable amount of airplay afterwards, and I think it's very clear this was an Islamic terrorist incident, and it should be treated as such.
Yeah, absolutely.